Now that it's pretty obvious to everybody except the die-hard MAGA cultists that Donald Trump is not going to be president as of January 20th, 2021 at noon, talk is now centered around 2024. And I know, a little early, right? A little early to be getting into that whole thing. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to deal with it. But there is one issue we have to deal with. And that is the fact that according to a report from CNN on Thursday of this week, staffers and aides close to Donald Trump believe that he is going to launch a, quote, resurrection run in 2024 to pick up that second term that he believes, obviously, that he is owed. So he could run for president again in 2024. Not so sure that that's the smartest move. Not so sure that that's something the voters would want. And I'm not so sure that resurrection run would be the right term. I think the right phrase you're looking for is revenge run, because that's what this would be. Donald Trump seeking a second term after losing this election. That wouldn't be a resurrection. That would be revenge. He would only want to be president for another 4 years to take his revenge out on the American people, to punish all of the politicians who didn't immediately speak up after he got shellacked at the end of this week. Shellacking didn't happen on Tuesday. It took place much slower. It was a much more drawn out. They kind of let him bleed out a little bit and then tortured him a little more along the way until finally doing him in. It was quite a gruesome feat. It would have been more merciful to just do it on Tuesday evening instead of having to drag it out all week. But nevertheless, that's what happened. I don't think Trump would win again in 2024. And I'm not just saying that because he didn't win in 2020. I think the novelty of Trump wore off a lot this year, and that's why he wasn't able to pull it out. But 4 years of him being removed from a position of power to where he has nothing to back up anything he says. It's all just whining on Twitter or whining on Fox or whining on OWN or whatever conservative outlet he decides to create himself. All it is whining. At least when he was president, you could still see him every now and then with his mouth shut doing presidential things and projecting a presidential image. Now, I'm not saying he ever acted presidentially, but I am saying when you saw him walking onto Air Force One, when you saw him standing outside the White House, when you saw him sitting with other world leaders, that does change your perception of somebody. It does. Now, if all you see is him as the crazy old, guy watching Fox News and tweeting, suddenly that person looks a lot less appealing, even if you had found them appealing in the past. Rudy Giuliani is the absolute best example of that, folks. And that is the path that Donald Trump is going down. He is going to become the next Rudy Giuliani. Somebody who at one time a lot of people did say, you know what, I respect him. I think he's done some good things. And now it's just crazy harebrained like, I've traveled the world to find Joe Biden's dirt. Like, okay, Rudy, sure, you're tucking in your shirt there. Good job. Please go away. You shouldn't be within 50 yards of a school here. Anyway, that's what Trump is becoming. And his metamorphosis is going to be much more public and much faster than Rudy Giuliani's is. But that's what we're dealing with. And that's why I think these threats of Trump running again in 2024, bring it on. Because you're not going to pose a real threat to Democrats. All you're going to do is remind the Republicans and the independent voters out there how crazy the Republican Party can be.